Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers, and we're going to go over the massive amount of recovery efforts that are happening around 6 different states right now as a result of Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. We're also going to talk to you guys today about what FEMA is actually doing. It's been about 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene. Has FEMA shown up? So we're going to listen to what the politicians are saying, which is they're saying that either they have showed up and they're doing a wonderful job or they're not there at all. And then we're going to do the more important thing, and we're going to listen to what the people and the citizens are saying, what FEMA is doing. And you guys are going to be extremely disappointed when you hear these stories. Now, we're going to end this video taking you guys back into the HAARP initiative. We have got so many comments and emails talking about all these different theories. So we're going to take you guys out of all of the conspiracy theories, and we're going to talk to you guys about the actual facts on what's going on with that facility. And you guys, digging into what HAARP actually is, it is a very, I don't want to say it's dangerous or not, but it is a very fascinating piece of technology that is essentially punching a hole through the ionosphere, allowing waves into our atmosphere. We're going to go over all that today, and we're going to end by Mitch going over a very great writing that he made today, which is basically comparing socialism versus a collective society. And before we begin, happy Monday to the viewers. Happy Monday to you, Mitch. How are you doing today?
Good. What we're going to attempt to do here, just like we did yesterday, is to connect a few more dots and lay out, because that document from Zero Hedge called Funding Spikes, and then the document that I did before that called Is This Sustainable? And as Travis said, what we're going to do is bring it up on the third element, which is socialism versus the collective society.
Each of the videos that Mitch Vexler is co-hosting on, at the end of the video is a continuation of the story and the training that we're trying to teach you guys, showing you the under the hood math on what's going on with the officials, what's going on with our government. So we don't have to get stuck in all of this arguing. All we have to do, you guys, is look at the math like we're going to try to do today. So we're going to start, Mitch, by taking a look at the recovery efforts that are happening around the nation. I want to give a real big shout out before I hit play on this video to the Bergamot. This video, you guys, is exceptional. It's about 27 minutes long. This is an exceptional piece of work that these people did. We're going to watch 3 different segments. This is all on Asheville, North Carolina.
That's flooding in from there. It's coming in from underneath the system. So
holy crap.
Yeah, there's trucks that are lost.
No way.
I told him to call me on the radio if he makes it there for real. Then I can tell you. You gonna do it until I'm real.
What areas were flooded? Like the river was contaminated really, really badly.
With fecal stuff or what?
Well,
Sewage?
fecal probably, because from what people said. The whole River Arts District, which was a really cool part of it, Asheville,
Gone.
That's completely gone.
Really incredible stuff right there, Mitch. I want to take you to another one right here. This is from Sow the Land, another fantastic video. I'm going to have all of this linked. I want you guys to come back into here. Now, the last one was a video on Asheville. This is another video on Asheville that's going to kind of pinpoint what's going on with small businesses. Again, you guys come back to this channel and watch this video.
Boy. This is through the Biltmore side.
The smell.
Oh yeah, I mean there's still a bunch of mud in here.
Yeah, it's still really gross.
Yeah.
We were trucking in and out of here for 2 days trying to help vendors get their stuff because we kind of gave up on our stuff. As you can see, there's like a thick layer of mold on everything, and that whole ceiling collapsed there, and there's mold growing all over that room. We just didn't want to get sick.
Absolutely unbelievable, Mitch. Let's keep going.
Came in. Wow. And these propane tanks were way down there. So they floated and landed on top of this building. And that's where they finally brought in an excavator to try to look for a body because the dog signaled 5 times. but they never found one.
Those are some pretty incredible boots on the ground videos. Let's keep going.
Petersburg area. That raises the risk of waterborne illnesses and infections, along with electrocution from submerged power lines that are still charged. St. Petersburg is under a boil water notice. More than 2 million customers in Florida still have no electricity. At least 16 people have died from storm-related causes.
We're going to take a look at a paramotor that's actually flying overhead, showing you guys the damage and destruction from the floodwaters. So a bunch of floodwaters came down these mountains and obliterated everything. He's going to show you the trees that snapped in half and the rocks. Take a look at this. Come back to this because, again, exceptional boots on the ground videos.
Popped around all those boulders down there. Here's another one on the opposite side. This side was interesting. It was different mountainside terrain compared to everything else because all the trees on that side were down. It's like a tornado went through this one spot, just this one spot. And you'll see it. I zoom in here and you get to see like all the trees just toppled over. It's very strange.
This video is from Mark Honeycutt. You guys need to come back here. You need to listen to this woman. She's going to explain how homes have swept away and there are still hundreds of people that are missing.
My friend Lenny's home. Lenny's still missing.
This home?
The house, the chimney.
I'm sorry to hear that.
We saw his house float away. This was all during the hurricane, y'all. So like as soon as the winds were enough where we could safely get out, we came down here.
Would you say that was roughly maybe 12 on Friday?
I think it was like 10, 11 o'clock
10. So
when the wind started to die down. And now, mind you, I think the important thing to say about this storm in Western North Carolina is Thursday night. This river is typically, the Toe River is typically 1.5 to 2.5 feet of water. Thursday night, before Hurricane Helene ever got here, this was 9 feet.
Next video is from WHAS 11, and this is where a community got sick and tired of waiting for government officials and made a bridge out of tractor trailers.
Other neighbors built this temporary bridge out of flatbed trailers.
There's only one way in and one way out, but you ain't getting no supply chain without a bridge. Yeah, definitely got to have the bridge.
Prestino says an official replacement bridge has yet to be built. They needed to create this one to continue efforts to keep Butler residents stocked up with supplies.
Can't get a truck across the bridge we built, but you can get side-by-sides. So a bunch of side-by-sides have been getting together and running supplies back and forth.
This next story is on a helicopter pilot that went to go rescue people that had to stop because he was getting threats of arrest. Let's briefly listen to this story.
I don't think it can be coincidental when there has not been one in place the day before doing rescue operations, the night of, the morning of, that took place after our altercation. I think there would have never been a TFR put in place had we not had that conversation. If I had to do it over again, I would have stopped and I would have rescued as many people until they decided they were going to arrest me.
Looking at those videos, and I know there were many videos, I didn't see one government official. I didn't see any FEMA whatsoever. So just going off of this videos, is this proof positive that we 100%, we cannot count on the government, but rather the power to help is in the community itself?
Yes, FEMA's website is a complete fabrication. Second paragraph says before, during, and after, that they will be there. Well, what I've seen on the payments that have gone out is a spit in the ocean. What are you going to do with $300 million given the damage that we just saw in those videos? Who's planning on how to put back the banks of those rivers? I'm quite certain they've never even figured out that they can use all those parts, all those chunks of rock to start building dams to slow that water down on the next event. But all those trees that you saw that have been bent over like twisters, well, they all have to be broken up. All of that's got to get cleaned up. 300 million means absolutely nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. It's not that it's bad that it's there. The point is, it's insignificant on the overall scope of the damage. So FEMA's idea of standing, well, we did this, we did that, and then they're trying to say, well, you can't fly your helicopters in for parts. I'm sorry, when that happens, whoever is at FEMA that did that should be arrested. A citizen can perform a citizen's arrest on the spot. And that is exactly what should have happened. That's all in hindsight, obviously. But the bottom line is nobody, I don't give a damn who it is, has the right to stop those goods from rolling in and out of there. Those people need those supplies. That's clear. They're going to need them for the next year and a half. All that's going to happen here in the immediate 2 weeks, things will get dried out. Now you got to start dealing with the damage.
Would you say that the most important thing when dealing with hurricanes is preparation prior to the storm hitting?
I think it's a combination of everything, like we had discussed prior. It is good to have a citizens army of 50,000 ready to roll on this type of an event. So the government should be using its resources to work not for the sake of the government, but to work in combination with a population, an army. So it's not bringing in the reserves, but it's an army of private people that say, look, just like the Cajun Navy, we have resources. Everybody works together towards a common goal, not one entity, FEMA, standing up and stopping helicopters from taking flight. That's insanity. That's criminal, frankly. So yes, before, during, and after. I agree. Now do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Mitch, I want to ask why FEMA's not working together with people. Maybe it's because they think there's a liability. I don't know. Let's go into FEMA and let's listen to, okay, a little bit what the suits are saying, just briefly, and then let's listen to what the people on the ground are saying, and then let's go under the hood and show the viewers the reality of what's happening with FEMA financially.
DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who's been lecturing us this week on the dangers of spreading misinformation about FEMA's response to the victims of Hurricane Helene. Mayorkas never actually says what statements he's referring to, but he's very certain they will lead to demoralizing federal law and losing trust in government. But in the name of diplomacy, common sense would agree to call them disinformation. It's worth noting misinformation is when you get the facts wrong. Disinformation is when you deliberately get the facts wrong.
So let's listen to what President Biden has to say about the rescue and recovery efforts.
Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true. They're saying the money is needed for this crisis is being diverted to migrants. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman of Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop. In moments like this, there are no red or blue states. There's one United States of America, where neighbors are helping neighbors. Volunteers and first responders are risking everything, including their own lives, to help their fellow Americans. State, local, and federal officials are standing side by side. Let me repeat, no one should make the American people question whether their governments will be making sure that this is acting when it strikes. They'll be there.
I would argue, Mitch, though, that the government is actually creating those concerns and questions by not being there.
Yeah, Asheville is pretty horrible. There was no way in or out for several days. 10,000 people were without water for an entire week. It's not great over there at all.
Have you seen any FEMA workers on the ground?
To be completely honest with you, I've seen Wine to Water, I've seen local churches, Samaritan's Purse, and Hunger to Health. I feel like FEMA might be coordinating the effort, but I don't see any physical effort being put.
You guys get to send this up the ladder. We need this thing fixed. Any contractor, any car that comes through here must help the residents. You must give everything. No, you must help the residents, and you've got to do it. I want both of your names, because seriously, it's going all the way to the governor's office. I can't. Okay, give me. I want pictures of your IDs, please. I can take whatever. Trust me, I can get it. I can get it a different way.
Residents fighting with FEMA officials, Mitch. Here's the Disaster Relief Fund monthly report, August 31st of 2024. There's been so many rumors. Is FEMA broke? Are they not broke? The crazy thing about all this is FEMA is the one that's saying they're broke. And their actions are also saying they're broke. Here's a monthly report they sent into Congress saying that they are going to be running into a deficit into the end of September. So they couldn't make it to the end of September without being in deficit. And the crazy thing about that, again, that was before Hurricane Helene even hit. So they were broke, according to them, before that. They also initiated the immediate needs funding. The President of the United States, Biden, sent a letter to Congress suggesting that they are about to run out of money. What I found the most interesting about all that, Mitch, they have a lot of money. We know they have a lot of money because of this report by the DHS on August 14th of 2024. They basically reprimanded FEMA saying they need a whole bunch of oversight because it is an absolute clown show. This will be linked in here. I suggest you guys read this, but what I want to show you is how much money is just sitting there. You guys, let me scroll down to right here. So here it is, open programs, okay? So here's the open programs with the POP extensions. Here's the date of these programs, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, blah, 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 blah. But when you add all of that money, they got $7 billion in slush funds just sitting around. I thought it was also interesting to note that FEMA is losing employees at an alarming rate. According to this article, FEMA has spent on Hurricane Helene. Look at this. They've upped it since the last time we've been to this page, Mitch. They're now up to $344 million. And that's not that 750. That's just in their apparent resources. So 344 million, that's it. And they also increased the amount of generators from 157 or 156 to 210. So great work, FEMA. It looks like you're doing all kinds of stuff. When we look at that, Mitch, that 344 million, and we compare it to this right here, which is just in New York, and we're just talking about immigrations, NYC seeking 15,000 hotel rooms to shelter immigrants through 2025 as housing costs set to exceed 2.3 billion. So it's a fact that they're spending substantially more, I think like 8-9 times more on hotel rooms versus how much they've put so far into Hurricane Helene. Now, what's also interesting, they expect it's going to cost about 5.76 billion. It also goes into how much per room that this is costing, $352 a night per month. That's more than my mortgage. They're spending more than my mortgage. They're spending $9,000 a month on housing some of these people. On one hand, suits are saying they're broke. On the other hand, they got billions of dollars. On one hand, they're saying that they're showing up. They're proud of the recovery. On the other hand, there are people on the ground that saying they've never even seen FEMA. In fact, I can barely even find any footage whatsoever on FEMA. And so my question is in your opinion, Mitch, is FEMA just a political mouthpiece, or rather like a political puppet? Is it just a dog and pony show at FEMA?
FEMA is a giant slush fund for nefarious purposes. They've proven it. When the president says, well, these things aren't true, it is this administration itself that has sown the seeds of division. Isn't it interesting that in both instances, had balance sheets been available that were true, full-blown audits, you would see where this money was going. And by the way, with regard to New York and the hotel rooms, that's the equivalent of $10,400 per month per illegal immigrant. That's just the hotel room. That doesn't include the hotel tax. That doesn't include the food. That doesn't include maneuvering them around through because they have to be able to travel from one place to another allegedly to get a job. That doesn't include the phone. So understand, compare that number, $10,400 per month, to your own personal mortgage. They're buying and paying for votes. That is the only explanation that's humanly possible. But they're doing it on the backs of the American taxpayer. They're trying to steal an election through that process, and the American taxpayer is paying for it. That's clear. Their balance sheets are hidden. That's clear. FEMA, before, during, and after. It's clear. You're not there. You violated paragraph 2 of your own website. These things stack. You will reap what it is you sow. If you sow diversion, that is what you end up with. Congratulations. You've done one hell of a job.
I'll say one other thing, Mitch. They're also saving the owners of those skyscrapers in New York that are vacant and losing money at an alarming rate. So the taxpayers are also further bailing out banks, just FYI, if we want to tie that together. But I have another question. Why do you think so many people are saying like FEMA is diverting their money to pay for immigration when the reality is, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of the money is the taxpayer money. None of that money is FEMA's money. Is that correct, Mitch?
FEMA gets its money absolutely from the back of the American taxpayers. It comes from mom and pop. It comes from the economic engine. Then they take that money and they say, well, we're going to go and raise bonds. I mean, they're no different than everybody else. We'll just go and bond this up. We'll lever it up. And that brings you right back to the evidence of what we saw yesterday from that Zero Hedge article. It's just a stunning, stunning article.
Let's go into the HAARP program, and I'm going to try again I want to step away from all of the conspiracy theories. I'm going to take us into HAARP, and all we're going to do is we're going to read the facts and we're going to read the claims, and then you guys can make up your own mind. But the premise is that HAARP can control hurricanes, or at least control the trajectory of hurricanes. We'll share our opinions with you at the end of this video. HAARP is this high frequency active aurora research program. Now, this is located in Alaska Fairbanks, originally ran by the Air Force, after that given to the University of Alaska. This thing is very, very fascinating. Essentially what they're doing is shooting a high power radio frequency into the ionosphere. So they're testing what effects the ionosphere has with energy through radio signals. Again, you guys, this is a really, really fascinating piece of equipment. Now, the other really, really shocking thing is this has actually been around for about 40 years. This is nothing new. Now, here's what started blowing me away. All right, so they're going to list some of the main capabilities of the HAARP. Okay, so these are confirmed. This is what they can do, and this is what they mainly do. And I got to tell you guys, this is absolutely mind-blowing. Number one is low frequency called VLF radio waves by modulated heating of the aurora electrojet. Okay, so they're heating the electrojet through these radio waves. Oh my gosh, absolutely incredible. Number two, and this one hit me hard because I did not know this. They are also able to generate artificial air glow. Okay, you guys know what that is? It's kind of like a solar flare or the aurora borealis. And didn't we just see that right after the hurricanes? Didn't we have an amazing air glow phenomenon, Mitch? Can you recall my memory?
New York.
Oh, yeah. Has that ever happened in New York before?
Not that we could see.
Okay. All right. I'm just letting you guys know. Again, they can make the air freaking glow. That's the main. All right. Number three, generating extremely low frequency. Okay, cool. Generating whistle mode and remote censoring. Now, it's going to get real freaking crazy now, you guys. So these are the other things that it's doing. Number one, plasma line observations. Okay, cool. Stimulated electron emission observations. Cool. Gyro frequency heating research. A lot of heating waves here. Hurricanes run off of heat. Interesting. Spread F observations. High velocity trace runs. Here we go. Air glow observations. Look at that picture. I mean, you could see that. I'll shut up. Heating induced
scintillation observations.
Correct. And if you guys want to know what that is, click that. Click this link. Okay. Each of these is going to take you down its own rabbit hole. You guys got to be careful going down that rabbit hole because you may come out a rabbit and you don't want that. Now look at some of this other stuff. Now look at this one. Look at number 11. This is so crazy. Research into extraterrestrial HF radar echoes. No wonder why people are so like, what's going on there? I mean, if they're acknowledging these things, my gosh. Now this is crazy too. Testing of spread spectrum transmitter, media shower impacts on the ionosphere, response and recovery of the ionosphere from solar flares or geomagnetic storms, the effect on ionospheric disturbances, producing high density plasma clouds. Say what now? Do you know what that is? A plasma cloud? I do. I looked it up. They're making freaking, because when I was talking to Mitch was like, well, I don't see how they could generate water, right? This was like 15 hours ago when there's like another 6 hours of research. But when I started looking at like, what's a plasma cloud? And then that led me into, there's like an atmospheric river. And so they can manipulate certain things, Mitch, to generate some type of water. The plasma clouds, freaking incredible. I want everyone to look what a plasma cloud is. That's insane. Now, let me go down here to the conspiracy theorists real quick, and let's just read the claims, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do, you guys. I'm going to read the allegations right here. These are pretty alarming allegations. So, number one, Tom, right here, the author of Angels Don't Play This HAARP, and I'm going to show you guys this guy in a minute. He has claimed that HAARP facility could trigger earthquakes and turn the upper atmosphere into a giant lens so that the sky would literally appear to burn. That's crazy. A Russian military journal wrote that ionospheric testing would trigger a cascade of electrons that could flip Earth's magnetic poles. That's scary. The Alaska State Legislature, and European Parliament held hearings about HAARP, the latter citing environmental concerns. Wow. Former Governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, questioned whether the government is using the site to manipulate weather or to bombard people with mind-controlling radio waves. There's actually a study on that I'm going to show you here in a minute. I was blown away. I found that on page 263 out of 400. Physicist Bernard claimed that HAARP includes technology based on his own patents that has the capability to modify weather and neutralize satellites. It's been proposed as a cause of low frequency background hum said to have been heard in various locations. There are some massive conspiracy theories here. Europe, Russia, across the world, Alaska, 2 Georgia men were arrested for a terrorist plot. Stanford University professor Ehrman with Popular Science, is saying that is unwarranted. Other people are saying this is the Moby Dick of conspiracy theories. This is so absolutely crazy. The project resurfaced again during the 2022, less than 2 years ago, United Nations Climate Change Conference known as COP27, sparking conspiracies as well as many fantasies and speaking also about geoengineering. Following the recent 2023 earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, this project, including that of Bluebeam, I won't go there, that's a crazy thing right there, has also been accused of having caused earthquakes, giving rise to numerous conspiracy theories. Donald Trump is saying this, Nikki Haley's saying this. So we had a solar flare and then Hurricane Beryl. These solar flares are crazy. So in other words, they're able to punch a hole through the ionosphere and let in solar activity, solar flares and stuff like that. Now, my next question was okay, that's pretty scary, but do solar flares or solar storms have any scientific impact on hurricanes? And that answer, my friends, is yes. Yes, they do. I'm going to read a couple things. Sunspots. Increased solar activity, sunspots, means more UV radiation reaching the Earth's upper atmosphere. The extra radiation warms the air aloft and decreases the temperature differential between high and low elevations, resulting in less available potential energy for hurricane intensification. Another research paper that's very, very interesting. A new study indicates that solar storms that struck the Earth last week may cause a wave of hurricane. The team used a model to analyze tropical cyclone activity over the past 5,500 years and found 11 time periods in which there were 40%, Mitch, 40% more storms than normal, as these time periods turned out to be experiencing intense solar activity. I'm only going to play about 30 seconds, but this is the guy that has been writing about, one of the many people actually, Mitch, that has been writing about all the crazy things that are going on in HAARP. This is from the 1990s.
The things that we found in other Air Force documents, one in particular was a document put together in '82. The document was called Low Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, with a foreword by none other than Newt Gingrich. One section spoke about using radio frequency radiation transmitters for disrupting human thinking, for basically debilitating troops invisibly by being able to bombard them with radio frequency that was tuned to just the right frequency, just the right waveform, so as to totally disrupt their mental process.
Mitch, I found it. It hurt me. It took me hours, and I found it on page 249. This is going to be linked in my description. He's not wrong. They have literally, and this is from the 1980s, okay, they have been for sure using microwaves and frequencies to manipulate the human brain. And Mitch, again, this is, they're acknowledging these things in this report. I'm not going to read everything, but it's going into the effect altered brain morphology in animals. You know what's interesting about that statement? We're also animals. It goes kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. We're animals, so it doesn't differentiate humans and animals here. Behavior modification in animals. Are you kidding me, Mitch? And this is multiple pages of this. Look at this. And they go into, like, look at it. Classical theory versus recent theoretical research. This is quite a read. If you guys want to go down that rabbit hole and look at, they're even telling us what the frequencies are, Mitch, and the depth of penetration of those frequencies into skin and tissue. This is from the 80s, my friend. I know you're wondering, why would the US do that? I don't know. I don't know that they would, and I don't know that they're controlling this. But I also wanted to point out that it's not just US that has a HAARP. Guess who else has a HAARP, Mitch? Russia. Russia has one as well. It's right here. It's called the Sura Ionospheric Heating Facility, located in Russia. One last rumor that we've been hearing, which was basically that HAARP is a cover story to distract you guys from what's going on in Wyoming with the wildfires and the apparent lithium land grab. So I just take a look at this real quick. This is a printout, okay, of all of the mines and prospects from the #1 provider of lithium in the US, Chariot, okay? And all I want to do is point out this. I was not able to find any mines in those massive wildfires in Wyoming. However, both of the massive wildfires are surrounded by mines and prospect areas. Up here, you see that Chariot has been drilling and mining and prospecting where I'm circling right here. See all those little dots? That's where the fire's at, right around all those little dots. And the other fire is right over here where I'm circling. And you can see those little dots right there. Mitch, that's where the fire is. I gotta be super careful here because I don't want to upset anyone. I want to ask you a question. Can we agree, according to the documents, official documents that we read, that HAARP can punch a hole in the ionosphere and allow solar flares and solar energy to come in? And can we also agree, according to research, that solar flares and geomagnetic storms apparently cause an increased activity in hurricanes? Can we confirm that?
It's hard to tell. I mean, let's go backwards as to what you've just been talking about. So in Cuba, I'm sure people the last few years have heard about the Havana syndrome. Well, the Havana syndrome is exactly the ramifications of what the Russian government has done in Cuba to the Americans. And isn't it interesting that Newt Gingrich himself, back in the 80s, wrote that this is something that should probably be put back in the can, put it back in the jar. So there is something to the story. The idea of tying it to a hurricane, if you're changing the atmosphere, does make sense. But I can't quantify the net result. However, we can say, if you're going to punch a hole in the ionosphere and that causes other problems with weather, well, how could that not cause acidic rain? So if you do have rain that occurs and it's bombarded with things that shouldn't be in Mother Nature, well, then you screwed around with Mother Nature and you lost. And that's what we said a few videos ago, don't jack with Mother Nature. And to that point, if you look at the fraudulent debts, so I want to bring this back to our side of the equation, which is quantifying how these things occur. Well, debt and bonds, as we've said, are weapons of mass destruction. And these weapons of mass destruction are being used to fund nefarious things such as missiles and other bonds and other debt. It's compounding and it's cumulative. So could you imagine, instead of doing all this nonsense that's nefarious, if all these rogue entities said, okay, that's it, we're going to take this money and we're going to do something good for humankind, which is let's go and solve cancer across the globe. We hook all these entities up that are doing the research on cancer. And my guess is within a year and a half, 2 years, we would have that disease beat. So that would be something fantastic versus something that is so nefarious, hidden. Balance sheets are straight up lies. The politicians are straight up lying to cover this up, i.e. FEMA, right? Where's all this money going? Your balance sheets aren't worth anything because there's no notes. And even if you subpoenaed the notes, you still won't get them because they'll just ignore the subpoena. So the fact that they're hiding this information is proof positive they're guilty. It's not A or B. It's just you're hiding the information. You must be guilty. Otherwise, turn it over. Well, That's the problem with all of this. These are rogue, unlawful, clearly it's unlawful, government agencies. How do you stop it? Stop the flow of the money.
Yeah. And honestly, Mitch, the thing is first of all, I 100% am convinced scientifically, the research reports that we have gone over now and in the past, that if they chose to, they could definitely impact weather. In fact, we know that, and we also know that the military has used in the past weather to fight wars. We know that because of Vietnam. They did that. We know that. So I definitely think that they are capable. I think that they're capable of doing something like that, but I don't know that I could say that they're capable of intimately controlling necessarily. I don't know the science, but I'm trying to say this. I think there's a higher probability at this point that if the hurricanes are increasing because of HAARP, that it's a byproduct of that research. I don't know that I don't know that I could say at this point, Mitch, that it's done intentionally and they have intimate control of such a massive storm. I don't know enough to be able to confirm that, but we can confirm certain things. The military has used weather programming to fight wars. They can punch a hole in the ionosphere. They do create heat. They can manipulate wind, cloud formation, potential elements of a hurricane. So let me ask you this question. If you knew that they had the capability to steer these storms, do you think at the most evil level that they would control the storms to get what they want? Do you think that they would do that if they had the capability?
Well, they would come back and say, well, we're doing it for purposes of missile defense systems, right? Which in theory is a good use. The problem is we already know that Russia's got it because you have seen it happen recently in Havana. It's called the Havana syndrome. So the end game of what they're doing it for is just simply unknown. It's not a question, can they manipulate it? That's been proven. They can see clouds. They can do all sorts of things, right? Aerosol cans themselves, up until about 10 years ago, were allegedly impacting the ionosphere, right? And so if you open up a hole in the sky and the sun can shoot its beams straight in, how many people end up with cancer as a direct result? Could you focus that effort on a continent? Well, nobody knows, but the theories are there. The problem is you can't quantify what's really going on because there's so many theories and so many applications of whatever it is that they're doing. It simply can't be quantified. Bottom line is, though, they are monkeying with Mother Nature, and that is not good.
Right. And also, we don't trust them for good reason. So there's also that. That sucks. I mean, I understand why that lady was saying it's the Moby Dick of conspiracy theories. I mean, because they're acknowledging certain things that they probably should not be doing. But let's move on. Okay, we stayed in that rabbit hole a little long. Can we move on now? And can you go over your recent work, which is basically comparing the collective society to socialism?
This is the second element to what I wrote, but we interspersed the story from Zero Hedge, talking about the bank financing and the spikes that they were seeing from their side of their debt, which shows that the banks are maxed out. So it's kind of three documents. Just consider this the third one. So socialism versus a collective society. Have you wondered why prices are so out of control? Governments never reduce consumer prices because they benefit from inflation, dissolving their political spending commitments in a constantly depreciating currency. Inflation is the perfect hidden tax. The government makes the currency less valuable by issuing more units of fiat money, partially dissolves its debt in real terms, collects more taxes, and presents itself as a solution to rising prices with subsidies in an increasingly worthless currency. That is why socialism and hyperinflation are one and the same. This is why elections matter. This is why math matters. If you want lower prices, you need to give less economic power to the government, not more. Only free markets, competition, and open economies help decrease consumer prices. As seen in the appraisal districts, FEMA, and the school districts, the taxing entities, we are surrounded by fraudulent, unlawful government entities. Therefore, the federal government continues to print more money, which increases prices, making it very difficult to buy a home or create a small business. The government self-induces inflation, which is equity stripping your money by devaluing your currency. The Consumer Price Index measures inflation itself is a fraud. It fails to quantify the erosion of the currency's purchasing power. When a central bank like the Fed cuts rates and increases the money supply after accumulated 20.4% inflation in 4 years, it is not defending price stability. It is defending price increases. It's the opposite of what you think. The strategy serves to conceal the government's financial insolvency, a currency with a declining value. Why would governments want higher prices? Because it gives them more power. Destroying the currency they issue is a form of control. That is why they need more debt and higher taxes. High taxes are not a tool to reduce debt, but rather to justify increasing public indebtedness. Inflation is a warning sign of a declining currency and a loss of purchasing power. The economic limit is evidenced by lower growth, lower employment, weaker real wages, secular stagnation, and declining foreign demand for public debt, all of which we have enumerated in this series of videos. If you want lower prices, you should give less economic power to governments, not more. With reference to real estate taxes, I would like to point out that there's 143 million homeowners in the United States, and if they were to simultaneously go on strike and not pay the real estate taxes until the taxing entities adhere to the law, this nonsense would stop. It is the property owners that have the power to make a change. It is clear the taxing entities, due to the debt they created, have proven their willingness to break the law, and therefore the only solution is the elimination of property taxes in favor of a uniform state's sales tax. A weaker currency and hidden frauds, that's the school districts, the appraisal districts, and FEMA, are tools designed with intent to increase government power in economic terms. Our job as a collective society is to help our friends, families, and neighbors realize what is happening, teach them how to protect at their appraisal districts, vote to eliminate property taxes in favor of a uniform state sales tax, and prepare before it becomes too late. Money is credit. Government debt is fiat currency. Currency depreciation is inflation. That's a tax. And inflation is an implicit default. It's the exact opposite of the implicit guarantee. And that equals equity stripping, which equals socialism plus government control. And that is exactly why voting matters. At the local taxing entity level, your implicit guarantee equals the guarantee of an implicit default created by the taxing entities. At the federal level, your implicit guarantee equals the guarantee of an implicit default created by the federal government. And as we've discussed before, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. A wind down is achievable at the local taxing entity level, the largest offender of which is the school districts. So first, we are going to expose it, which is what we're doing, then wind down that debt, switch to a fee-based school district, and ensure enough proper funding based on a uniform state's sales tax.
Math matters, Mitch. And I will say, sir, we're going to end there. And I am glad you are on our side. And I am glad you are educating everyone like you are, man. I mean, you've really helped step up my own understanding. And I believe a lot of our viewers. And don't worry, guys, that letter that Mitch just read will be in our description. Mitch, that was wonderful. Before I let the viewers go, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, this is a difficult video because when you start and you see the damage that is still existing, and it will exist for a year and a half before a lot of this stuff is cleaned up. But the idea that the government is stepping up with 300 million, or nobody knows what the government's going to do at the tail end of the day. But the idea that that's all they're saying is extremely problematic in and of itself. I just saw one road as an example, based on what I know, my experience. To replace that road, you're almost $5 million. Right? And that doesn't even touch, well, what's going on either side of the road. So you got to get that entire stretch of road rebuilt. You got all the trash you got to deal with. This takes time and this takes money. Well, okay, 5 million against 300 million, who's paying for it? In other words, the 300 million is just a spit in the ocean. And that makes watching these videos painful. But again, you can't bury your head in the sand and say, and this goes for the government officials too. You can't bury your head in the sand and say, well, here's 300 million, go away. That isn't going to work. And that's the problem. Office of Inspector General, the OIG, has stepped up and said, no, FEMA's got money. Okay, but they don't want to access it. Why not? So all these things are connected. It really does come down to balance sheets. And why are you lying on your balance sheets? Why do you not attach notes to your balance sheet that said, this is what we're doing in this community? Why does it not go down to the actual employees who know what's going on? Forget these idiots at the top of these entities. They're fools. They've proven it. They're liars. But the people under the hood inside of these organizations are the ones, as I've said, that should go to the top, because things have to happen and they're not happening. And that makes this very difficult and very hard to palate.
Now, I would say one thing that has to happen is 100% awareness, and we need to kill as a society the apathy. And I'm going to also add, another thing that should matter to FEMA is the actual people. Now, you guys, we hope you have a great Monday. We hope that you made it this entire length of this video. Give us some comments below. Let us know how we did. Everything is linked. And other than that, if you guys are out there just living your life, we wish you luck and we hope you win.